Pressure reveals the truth. Not what you say, not what you intend, not what you believe about yourself. Pressure reveals what you actually do. When things move fast, when emotions rise, when stakes are high, that's when your real level shows. And most people fail there. Not because they're weak, but because they're untrained. They haven't built control in the moment that matters most. They haven't mastered the pause. That's the difference. The strongest people are not emotionless. They feel everything. The stress, the fear, the urgency, the pressure, but they don't react instantly. They delay. That's the skill. That's the edge. 1 second of pause can save years of regret. Say it again. 1 second of pause can save years of regret. You have a choice, even under pressure, especially under pressure. But most people don't believe that. They say, "It happened too fast. No time to think. I just reacted." That's not truth. That's lack of training. Because there is always a moment. Small, quick, almost invisible, but it's there. The space between stimulus and response. And if you train it, you control it. That's the key. Let's make this real. High performers, athletes in critical moments, leaders in crisis, professionals under pressure. They don't panic. They don't rush emotionally. They slow down internally, even when everything outside is moving fast. That's why they perform. That's why they win. Not because they're faster, but because they're more controlled. You want control over your emotions? Then stop handing that control to other people. That's the truth most people avoid. Because it's uncomfortable. Because it forces responsibility. Because it removes excuses. But it's real. If your emotional state depends on someone else's opinion, you are not in control. They are. That's the key. If they control your approval, they control your emotions. Say it again. If they control your approval, they control your emotions. You have a choice. You can live for approval, or you can live with control, but you cannot do both. Most people choose approval. Without realizing it, they check their phone constantly, waiting for likes, comments, messages, waiting for someone to confirm they matter, that they're doing well, that they're enough. And when that approval comes, they feel good. Temporary. But when it doesn't, they feel anxious, insecure, restless. Why? Because their emotions are outsourced, given away, dependent. That's weakness. Not because wanting approval is bad, but because needing it is dangerous. You don't need their permission to feel good about yourself. You don't need their validation to take action. You don't need their approval to stay consistent. But you've trained yourself to believe you do. That's the problem. And now you're going to break that pattern. Because it's not about validation, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about being liked, it's about being in control. You don't become emotionally strong in one moment. You don't wake up one day and suddenly have control. That's not how this works. Emotional control is not a talent. It's not something you're born with. It's not something a few people have and others don't. It's built daily, repeatedly, intentionally. That's the truth. Discipline your emotions, or they will discipline you. Say it again. Discipline your emotions, or they will discipline you. You have a choice. You can train control, or you can stay controlled. But you cannot avoid the outcome, because if you don't build discipline, your emotions will build patterns for you, and those patterns will control your life. That's the key. This is not about big moments. It's about small, daily actions, repeated over time. That's where discipline is built. That's where control becomes automatic. That's where you separate yourself from the average. Most people wait. They wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the perfect moment. But discipline doesn't wait. Discipline acts every day, no matter how you feel. That's the difference. It's not about emotion, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you do anyway. That's the standard now. Let's break it down. You want emotional control? Then you need emotional training. Daily training. Just like your body needs exercise, your mind needs discipline. And if you don't train it, it weakens. It reacts. It loses. Pain is coming. Not maybe. Not sometimes. Always. Rejection, failure, loss, disappointment, betrayal. It's part of the process. It's part of life. You don't get to avoid it, but you do get to decide what you do with it. That's the difference. That's the line between people who grow and people who stay stuck. Pain is energy directed. Don't waste it. Say it again. Pain is energy directed. Don't waste it. You have a choice. You can let pain control you, or you can use it. Most people waste it. They react emotionally. They complain. They blame. They shut down. They use pain as an excuse to stop. That's weakness. Not because pain is wrong, but because they don't know what to do with it. They feel it, and then they waste it. But you don't. Not anymore. Now you understand something different. Pain is not the problem. Your reaction to it is. It's not about pain. It's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about what happened. It's about what you do next. That's the shift. Let's make this real. Rejection. You try something. You put yourself out there, and you get rejected, ignored, denied, overlooked. It hurts. Of course it does. That's normal. But what happens next? Most people take it personally. They doubt themselves. They pull back. They stop trying. They use rejection as proof that they're not good enough. That's the mistake. Because rejection is not a verdict. It's feedback. It's direction. It's information. But only if you use it. You have a choice. Not every situation needs your reaction. But most people react anyway. They speak too fast. They explain too much. They defend too quickly. They argue when it's unnecessary. And every time they do that, they lose power. Because they reveal everything. Their emotions, their insecurity, their need to be right. That's the truth. Talking is easy, reacting is easy. But silence takes control. Silence takes discipline. Silence takes strength. That's the key. Silence is control. Silence is strength. Say it again. Silence is control. Silence is strength. You have a choice. You can react, or you can remain silent. And that choice determines your power. Let's make this clear. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not fear. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is strategy. Because when you stay silent, you don't give others control over you. You don't feed the situation. You don't escalate emotion. You stay grounded. And grounded people win. That's the difference. Let's talk about arguments. Most arguments don't need to happen. They start because someone reacts, then the other reacts. Then it escalates. Back and forth. Louder. More emotional. More personal. And nothing gets solved. Now, imagine something different. Someone tries to pull you into an argument. They raise their voice. They challenge you. They expect a reaction. And you say nothing. You pause. You listen. You stay calm. Now what happens? The energy drops. The tension fades. The situation loses. This is the final level. Not perfection. Not emotionlessness. Not isolation. Control. Complete control over yourself. Where nothing outside you, no person, no situation, no outcome, dictates how you feel, how you think, or how you act. That's what it means to become untouchable. Not that life stops testing you, but that nothing controls you anymore. That's the goal. That's the standard. When you control yourself, nothing can control you. Say it again. When you control yourself, nothing can control you. You have a choice. You can live reacting to everything around you, or you can live directing everything within you. That's the difference. And that difference changes everything. Let's be clear. Being untouchable doesn't mean you don't feel. You still feel pressure. You still feel emotion. You still feel pain. But you don't get controlled by it. You don't get pulled into chaos. You don't lose yourself in the moment. You stay steady. That's power. Most people are controlled by extremes. When things go well, they get overconfident. They relax. They lose discipline. When things go wrong, they get emotional. They panic. They lose focus. They swing from high to low, constantly. That's instability. That's weakness. But you're building stability. You stay the same, focused in success, calm in chaos, disciplined in both. That's the difference. That's what makes you untouchable. It's not about the situation, it's about your stability within it. That's the key. Now think about this. So, most people don't think. They react. Instant anger, instant fear, instant frustration, instant regret. No pause, no control, no awareness. And then they wonder why their life feels chaotic, why their relationships break, why opportunities disappear. It's not bad luck. It's not other people. It's their reactions. That's the truth most people avoid. You don't lose control in big moments. You lose control in small, repeated reactions. Every single day, someone disrespects you, you snap. Something doesn't go your way, you complain. You feel uncomfortable, you quit. And every time you react without thinking, you give away power. That's the key. You are not your first reaction, you are your final decision. Say it again. You are not your first reaction, you are your final decision. Because your first reaction? That's automatic. That's conditioning. That's habit. But your final decision? That's who you are. That's where discipline shows up. That's where control is built. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But you've trained yourself to ignore that choice. You've trained yourself to react instantly. Now you're going to retrain that. Starting with one principle. Simple, powerful, non-negotiable. Pause, breathe, choose, pause. Before you speak, before you act, before you send that message, before you raise your voice, pause. That 1 second of silence? That's where power lives. Most people skip it. That's why they stay weak. You don't. You pause. Then you breathe. Not because it's so. Your emotions feel real. That's the problem. They feel intense, immediate, overwhelming. They demand action. They push you to move, speak, decide, right now. And most people obey, without question, without awareness, without control. But here's the truth you need to accept if you want to master your life. Your emotions are not facts. Say it again. Your emotions are not facts. They are signals. Temporary, fluctuating, unreliable signals. And if you treat them like truth, they will mislead you every single time. That's the key. Feel it, but don't believe everything you feel. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But most people don't use it because they trust their emotions blindly. They say, I feel scared, so it must be dangerous. I feel angry, so I must be right. I feel insecure, so I must not be good enough. No, that's not truth. That's interpretation. And interpretation can be wrong. Very wrong. Let's break it down. Fear. Fear feels real, doesn't it? Your heart races. Your mind overthinks. Your body tightens. It screams. Stop. Don't do it. Stay safe. But what is fear, really? It's not always danger. Sometimes it's growth. Sometimes it's opportunity. Sometimes It's the exact direction you need to go. Think about it. Every major step forward in your life came with fear. Starting something new, speaking up, taking a risk, leaving comfort behind. Fear was there. Not because it was wrong, but because it was unfamiliar. You don't lose control because of emotions alone. You lose control because you're attached. Attached to being right. Attached to being respected. Attached to being understood. Attached to outcomes you can't fully control. And that attachment? That's what makes you react. That's what makes you vulnerable. Because the moment something threatens what you're attached to, you lose balance. You get defensive. You get emotional. You get reactive. That's the trap. And most people live in it every day. But if you want power, real power, you need to learn one skill: detachment. Not indifference, not weakness, not avoidance. Detachment is control. Detachment is clarity. Detachment is strength. That's the key. The calmer you are, the stronger you become. Say it again. The calmer you are, the stronger you become. You have a choice. You can stay attached and keep reacting, or you can detach and start controlling. Let's make this clear. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't let what you care about control you. There's a difference. A big one. Because when you're attached, you need things to go your way. You need people to respect you. You need situations to be fair. You need outcomes to match your expectations. And when they don't, you react. You argue. You explain. You try to fix everything immediately. And in doing that, you lose control. But when you're detached, you observe. You assess. You choose. That's power. Let's talk about real situations. Someone insults you. There is a voice in your head. Constant. Relentless. Always talking. Most people never question it. They just listen. They accept every thought as truth. Every reaction as valid. Every feeling as justified. And that's why they lose control. Not because of the outside world, but because of what's happening inside. That's the truth. Your emotions are not controlled by events. They are controlled by interpretation. And your interpretation is shaped by one thing: your inner dialogue. That voice, that constant narration in your mind. That's what decides how you feel. That's the key. Your mind listens to what you repeat. Say it again. Your mind listens to what you repeat. You have a choice. You can let that voice run automatically, or you can take control of it. Most people let it run. And what does it say? This is unfair. This always happens to me. I'm not good enough. They shouldn't have done that. I can't handle this. Negative, emotional, reactive. And every time you repeat those thoughts, you strengthen them. You reinforce them. You make them your reality. Because your mind doesn't question repetition. It accepts it. That's the danger. But also that's the opportunity. Because if repetition creates weakness, it can also create strength. If you take control, that's what this chapter is about. Not controlling the world, not controlling people, controlling the voice inside your head. Because once you control that, everything changes. Your emotions